Peace. Hotep. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Namaste.
Hello.
All right. So, we were watching something that was very intriguing the other night, and that was K.Michelle on the Cam Newton show. And basically, she was just saying that black men need to start taking care of their children, but not only that, they should start making the house a home again and coming home and trying to stay home and being responsibility. And there's a lot of backlash against that. So how you feel about that, honey?
Well, how I feel about what she said, for one, I agreed with what she said. As a black woman, we're together now, but for a long time I was a single black woman. And I found that a lot of black men don't want to commit. They don't want families. They are okay with making babies. They're okay with, that part of it. But when it comes down to the commitment, they just don't want to do it. And my take of it was what k.michelle was expressing was what a lot of us black women feel. Is that we want a black man. We don't want anything else. But unfortunately, black men are not committing to us. And of course, this is a huge generalization. Of course, this does not speak to everyone. But what I took from the conversation was that she was specifically speaking to Cam Newton because he's known to have a lot of children and a lot of different baby mothers. And I don't know that you see that so much in other communities. But forget other communities. Within our community, it's a huge problem because black families raise black children. And when you look at the situation or the plight of black children these days, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. You're in the school system. You see these children acting out, doing the most to be the worst, doing the most to be in trouble, where other communities and cultures don't do that. And I believe that it is a direct reflection of the fact that we don't honor families. I mean, it's fine that you can be a man who could financially provide for your child, and that's great. But children need that presence. They don't need to just see their mom. They need to see a man loving their mother. They need to see a man, how a man is. They need to see a man getting and being a man. We are a certain age, so, when we were growing up, we saw men being men.
Yes.
We saw men providing. We saw men being heads of households. And somewhere along the way, that got lost. So she made a point of when she's in Nashville, white men finish working at 5, 6 o'clock to go home to be with their families.
Right.
While us as black folks or black men in the same industry, they'll be in the studio all night,
In the clubs all night.
In the clubs all night, multiple women, the drinking, the partying lifestyle, especially when you get to a certain age, and they're still doing those things. Or it's not portrayed that they have families, because there are rappers and entertainers who actually do have families. They have wives at home and they have children that they're taking care of. So I just thought that it was a really honest take on the view of the state of black families from a black woman. What do you think?
Definitely. My problem is, I put a little post up and I get slack and excuses from the men. And it's like a lot of us feel like we're under attack all the time. And if it doesn't pertain to you, why are you upset? And if it pertains to you, why can't you self-correct? So we just have to get back to family. And that's what it is. When I think about, I lived in an Italian community in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. Those people about their little leagues to take care of their sons and their children, and karate and after school programs. They are always doing family activities. right? And then also we know people in the Asian community, same thing. The Latino community, for the most part. And most communities, they're about family first. And our men have to learn that the children are a priority. Your woman and your children are your priority. That should be first. The priorities are mixed up. You do everything else, expend your energy, spend your money, and then I got to deal with my family. I got to deal with my baby's mama. I got to deal with my kid. No, that should all be first. Try to get it right. There's nothing wrong with that. We're doing things backwards, and we have to re-engineer everything.
Other thing about that, and it's not to dig at anyone's religion or religious beliefs, but you have a lot of people out here claiming to be religious and follow a higher power, and yet they're acting as if the children they make don't matter. And this is not to say that women don't make poor choices, because that's a part of it too. Sometimes we are too quick to give ourselves to someone or have children with someone without vetting them and seeing, do they even know what it is to be a father? What type of home did they come from? Was there a father in their house? Do they know the importance of being a father? But I just think that it's a reflection of the missing father in the home. Well, you can usually tell when a man is raised or a boy is raised and there's no dad around. They don't know how to relate to men. They don't know how to relate to women, honestly.
Right.
They are very highly emotional a lot of times because they are modeling the behavior of their mothers. I have 2 boys, and unfortunately their father wasn't in the same home. Fortunately, actually. But I can tell the difference, like when I look at your son for example, yes, I can see the difference. I can see the difference where I see your son is having a confidence, a level of self-worth in him, not just self-worth, but he knows himself. And I believe that's a direct influence of a good man in the house. Now, of course, there are exceptions. We are not talking about abusive men. We are not talking about toxic relationships. And we're also not saying that these other communities all have perfect relationships. We're not talking about perfect relationships. We're talking about the Black family.
Right.
The Black family is the foundation of our communities. I think it's the Black family that got us through all of the struggles that we've gone throughout these years. If we were broken, and I don't think there ever was really unity in the Black community, but there were Black families. And if the man's goal was to protect his family, then his family would rise. Same thing with the woman. The woman, it should be a team effort, instead of having these women raising the children on their own. And everybody knows with kids, daddy's word is gold. Mommy could say something 100 times, and those kids know. We soft on them. We're soft on our babies. But daddy says no. And even when you got little toddlers, daddy says no, it's no. That we need that in our families, but it's just, it's been lost, it seems like to me,
Yes, yeah. Well, what you have me thinking about is, the reason that I brought up the ethnicities. I brought up the ethnicities because, just to make an obvious example, why are we the only ones mainly running around not taking care of our children and our women and the elderly, the whole family? We need to rebuild the family structure. So if you really look at other communities and you look at our community, you will definitely see it as black and white. I wanted to say that, and like you were saying about the boys, so I can walk into a classroom, I can walk into any organization with young men, and I can tell right away who doesn't have a father, because they don't have respect for me, for any black men, and they don't have respect for most black women. They try to baby up to them, and they don't have respect for authority figures. They don't even understand, that anytime you violate an authority figure, it's going to come back around and bite you. They're oblivious to it, and that's what I try to teach them. And most of them, oh, I'll get away with it. I'm slick. I'm smart. I'll get over. I know they got caught, but I won't. And you know, right then, like, where's the father at?
Exactly, because I feel like that attitude comes from because they can get away and be slick with their mom. You know, at some point, especially a woman raising boys, at some point, that boy is bigger than you. That boy is stronger than you. And we all know boys go through a period where they're smelling themselves, we like to say. But it's better that dad is there to take care of that. When dad is not in the home, you know, mom can really, this is not an attack on single mothers. We raised children. I was a single mother. I raised two boys.
My mother was a single mother.
His mother was a single mother. Raised him and his two sisters. It's not that black women can't raise families or can't raise children, but it's so much better. There's so much structure, so much better structure when there's a man in the home. And this is not an attack on men, because I don't want it to come across like we were blaming men for the issues in our ills in our communities. What we are saying is that we need to come together as families again. Families need to matter again. Yes. And it doesn't matter the religion, it doesn't matter the economic status. You know, I remember like growing up in, I'm gonna say we're 70s babies, pretty much, because that was more of the formative years. Right. I remember back then, dads were always around, you know? Dads were always there, whether they had issues, you know, so-and-so's dad used to do this, that, and the other, or whatever. However, they were the heads of those households, and they controlled those children, especially those boys. And girls need their dads too, because as a woman, I have a good relationship with my father, but as a woman, if you don't have any relationship with your father, or even to know how to relate to men in general, and this is part of the reason, and it all becomes a cycle, because this is part of the reason also you have so many women out here looking for that father figure. And we're looking at men who ain't have fathers either, so they don't know. So we have to make a concerted effort to bring the families back together, bring the men back in the house, stop having all these kids with no fathers. You know, stop making all these babies with these different women, and you think just because you're paying for them, you don't know what they do when they wake up in the morning. You don't know what they go through. And then say you have all these children in different households. What if one has an activity at the same time as the other? Somebody's gonna miss out. Somebody's gonna be disappointed. Somebody's gonna be hurt. And a child doesn't choose that. You know, that's the decisions we make as adults.
And most of the people that I celebrate are the men, like Mike Tyson, you know, let's see, who else could I think of? Just men that came up so hard. DMX, you know, Mike Tyson. There's others, but it'll come to me as we speak. Even like Run DMC, LL, raised by his grandmother, I believe. You know, I respect them because they came through a system by themselves, like without their father, and they still made it. And like, so if you look at a lot of famous black men and women, we celebrate them because you made it through all of this opposition, all of this crisis, all of this drama, you know, without a father, without, you know, with a broken family in a sense. You made it. So that's why, like, and they might say, oh, well, he got this wrong with him, or he has that wrong with him. But it's a miracle that most of us make it. Like Erykah Badu said, I can't believe that we're still living. That goes for the men and women. It's a miracle that we make it to certain levels in life. you know, and we have to start just coming back together. And men are like, well, she's mad, angry black woman. Well, we understand why she's angry, because we left her not protected. We left her not loved. We lied to her. We cheated on her. So now you're going to come back in the house and she might be like, nah, you this and you that, and I ain't having this. But you have to show her and let her know that, listen, it's going to be different now. This is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? That's all. You got to just come and look, I assure you that I'm a changed person, or that I'm not like them, or whatever it is. You got to communicate that. Because if she thinks you're just another trifling dude, then it's going to be problems. You know, but this could be reversed.
So let me ask you a question.
You ask me a question.
What was it within you that made you decide, and you coming up with you knew your father was in your life, but he wasn't in your home.
Right.
You were raised by a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide that you weren't going to do that in your life, that you were going to be in your child's life? What was it within you, do you think, even though you didn't have the example, that made you become the example?
I loved my mother, and I saw my mother faint twice when I was in the Bronx around 6 years old, 5 years old. Then when we moved to New Jersey, and I'm about 12 and 13, she's having nervous breakdowns on her knees, crying in front of the family because the bills were overwhelming and she wasn't getting support from the baby's fathers. You know, and I said to myself, I don't want this when I get older. I want a family structure. Unfortunately, the role models was like My Three Sons and the Brady Bunch and all of that, until the Cosby Show came. Like, you know, there was good times, but they were poor, you know. Then later the Jeffersons. But before that, the images we had with a father figure were very minimal. And so I said, well, I want it like I see these white kids have it on TV. They got a father. Even the Brady Bunch was two families that came together, but they had a father and a mother. And I said, I want that for my children, and I want to be able to have a woman that I respect, protect, elevate, and make sure she doesn't have the struggles my mother had, you know. And then I learned from Malcolm X, I learned from the nation that, look, you gotta respect, protect, and elevate your woman, because they said every nation that they travel to around the earth, there's a high regard for their women, or there's no level of crossing that line and disrespecting their women. Some of their women you can't even touch. Some of them you can't even see. You know, it's none of your business. Mm-hmm. If you come in there on business, you deal with that man to man. That woman might be in the periphery somewhere minding her business, taking care of her business, her family, but she's not for you to mess with. There ain't no, oh, let me check out your daughter, or let me introduce you to, nah, you don't, that's none of your business. Mm-hmm. So like, but us, we, oh yeah, you know, pimping and hoeing and all of that. And like, that's what I'm about to say, that's not cypher. That's not right and exact. You know what I'm saying?
True indeed, God, true indeed. But speaking of which, you made me think of something when you talk about other cultures. I want to take it back to religion and Islam, because we both, you know, Amen. Islam is important to us.
That's right.
I mean, and one thing that I learned in being Muslim in Islam is that there is a respect for women in general. There's a respect for your wife and your family. And your wife is not out here just flaunting herself, being all in everybody's business, just out being. And you know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. That's cool. For me, I felt like when I was single and I was out and going out about, I didn't want that life. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be, you know, if I had my choice to do it over, knowing what I know now, and let me add this addendum in there, I was, you know, part of that life of making bad decisions and bad choices in men. And as I got older and had to self-reflect and look at my choices, I realized that's not what I wanted. I didn't want a bunch of baby daddies. My children have the same father, and it's not to judge anyone else, but sometimes that longing to want to be with a black man and have a black family. It's a strong, strong desire with black women. And sometimes we give too much to a man who doesn't deserve it. So on our part, we really have to be more selective in who we give ourselves to, who we have children with. We need to take more time. I mean, he look good, and he can do it, cross your eyes and all of that. But the result is that we have children here, and my whole thing is about the children, because I look at the state of our children, and it's upsetting sometimes.
Yes.
It really is upsetting. And then nowadays, which wasn't then when we were younger, is this influence of social media,
Right.
and the ideas that are being pushed on our children. Like it's just it's horrible. And the only thing I can attest to how it seems to me that it's affecting our children more than others is because there's that absence of that role model, that man, that force in the home to guide that child. Like, this is right, this is wrong. And that mess you watching on social media, that's not what it is. These people are manipulating you,
Right.
manipulating your thoughts for you to think a certain way for their own gain, for their own personal gain.
Yes.
And if you don't have someone speaking to you in regards to that, and even if there's a mom in the home who understands that she's working, you gotta work a 40-hour week, and then by the time you get home and get your kids home from wherever they at daycare or activities, if you can even afford to put them in activities, sometimes they just home alone or running the streets because you can't afford to do anything with it. You gotta work, and then you come home, it's late, you barely can get a meal together, so you're not really cooking because you don't have time. And that's another issue with our children, is the lack of nutrition, but that's another topic. That's another topic. So, it's hard. It's hard doing it by yourself, but it was not meant to be something
That's
that we
right.
do ourselves.
That's right.
And
And the man, we're talking about how the man will take care of the children, but he's going to take some stress off the woman. And I still don't understand how, when a single man who has something and a single woman who has something can't put it together in harmony. It seems like it's a lot of drama that goes on, because I spoke to people about that, and the men act like that just won't happen because they say women are crazy and all of that. And I'm like, nah, y'all gotta sit down and talk and make this work. Because why you got 2 separate apartments and you paying 2 electric bills and 2 water bills and 2 garbage bills and 2 car notes and 2, a mortgage. Put it together. And it's not all about the money, but that's going to make life much easier for you, especially if you're attracted to each other. If you have some kind of respect and love for each other, try to make it happen.
And the other thing I question with brothers is, if this is not the person you're trying to spend your life with, why are you not strapping up? Why are you even putting yourself in the position to have children with someone you don't even want to be with? That is crazy to me. That is crazy to me. You just out here dropping your seed all over the place, thinking that you a man. Like, of course I don't know this man personally, but like Nick Cannon, come on now. You a king because you got all these different women and all these babies out here. To me, that just shows a deep-seated insecurity. A deep-seated insecurity. Because why? And because you have money and they're cared for financially. But again, when they wake up in the morning, they don't see Dad. There was a time, my parents got divorced, but there was a time I woke up in the morning, I saw my father. My father was that discipline. My father was that structure. And this is what's missing from these children, is discipline and structure.
Yes.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And then when you grow up without that, it carries through. It carries through with your schoolwork, and there's just so many things behind that. If you're not doing your schoolwork, if you're not excelling in school, then you're missing out on opportunities that may be afforded to you because you do what you need to do in school. But you have no structure, you have no discipline. You think it's cool to be bad, to be the bad one. And it's always us. It's always our kids that want to be the bad ones in school. They want to act up and act out and all that. And that's a direct reflection of the lack of black families, you know. And not that, you know, there's always going to be someone, well, my dad was there and he was a this and he was a that. Again, we are not talking about toxicity. We are not talking about all of the ills of society that might be in the house. We really need to get to teaching our children or showing our children that we as men and women, black men and women, can love each other and can love them.
Yes.
That love is missing.
Yes, because they're experimenting with each other now. And there's those hours, like from the time school's out to the time parents get home, where they're trying to sneak off and do whatever, you know. And with those phones, they can text and play games and do all kind of things, you know. And everybody, so with 12th grade, not 12th grade, 12-year-olds, pardon me, 12-year-olds that I have taught, they almost all of them have a boyfriend or girlfriend now. That means all of them are experimenting, and they don't have goals for the future because they think they're too young, but they're not too young to experiment with another person.
Exactly, and here we go falling into those traps where they are young, and these young kids are having kids. Because all they see, the images they see are women, you know, we're supposed to be sexy, we got everything out, you know, just showing all types of stuff, and just things that as children, you're 12, you're a child, okay? You may think you're grown, but in middle school you are still a child. But they're not doing childish things, they're doing adult things and making adult decisions without the maturity of being an adult. And family unit can prevent some of that. And family extends not just to the immediate home with mother and father. Family extends to aunts, uncles, grandparents. That unit of love and protection and building up that child's self-esteem so that they're not making these poor choices because they want better for themselves. But the other thing is, and this speaks to other cultures too, the respect for your family. You don't want to embarrass your family. You don't want to go out in these streets and they be like, oh, that's so-and-so's child. That's from that family over there. There was a time when that meant something.
Right.
You know, you didn't want to disrespect your family. You didn't want to misrepresent, especially your mother.
Right.
You don't want to misrepresent any of that. And now that's missing because our families have been broken and destroyed, and it's a shame.
And we both grew up in New York, Bronx, Teaneck, New Jersey, shout out. And I would go down south for the summers. And I would say this, at 8, 9, 10 years old, those kids would say to me, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna go to the Army, I'm gonna go learn a trade. They knew already, that's how the families were. They knew what they were gonna do. Now, everything is blurry, vision is blurry, there's no goals, no objectives for the majority of the children. And so when a man doesn't take care of his children and lets them just go astray, then the system's gonna take care of those children.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna destroy those children. And if you love yourself, why would you not love your child the same way you love yourself and want for your child what you want for yourself? Why would you leave them running out there when you know how hard it is out here? And another thing is that it's been said before, but what most people don't understand, most men don't understand, is you don't have to spend a lot of money on your child if you don't have it, but you need to put some time in.
Exactly.
You need to take them to the park, play a little ball, throw the ball with them, take them to a museum, take them to the beach. It don't cost a lot of money.
And moms, you need to allow that, period. Just because that man is no longer in a relationship with you does not mean that he cannot be in a relationship with his child. That is important important. That is important.
That if there was an excuse a man had, that's the one I could accept a little bit. Is that the woman's not giving me access. Any other excuse, brothers, there's not a good excuse. It's just an excuse.
Yeah, and then it comes down to, again, if this is not the person that you're spending your life with, like, why are you having children with them? Why are you making children? Like, you really, there's too many ways to prevent pregnancy. To be having all these kids out here. And as always, I'm going to say again, there are exceptions. We're not talking about everybody, but for all of those of you who are watching this, to be like, well, I'm not that one. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? I think everyone can agree there is a serious problem with our children. There is a serious problem happening with our children,
And my thing is, it's bigger than you. It's not all about your ego and your pain and your suffering. It's about the race. It's about the community. And it's definitely about the children in the future. You're going to go. You're going to pass away. You're going to leave somebody here. So give them some guidance and have a legacy for yourself.
And if you are one of those men who are stepping up for your children, stepping up for kudos to you. Kudos to you. If you are, because it's not easy. Relationships are not easy, period. But if you're willing to stand there and be there for your children, if the two of you have made a child and two of you committed to raise this child, kudos to you. Kudos to you. But we really need a change. We really need to start really working on our families. And like K.Michelle said, we need black men to step up and do it. Because y'all are the leaders. Y'all are our leaders. Okay? Be leaders. We need y'all. Because like she said, white people ain't gonna do it. And Asian people ain't gonna do it for us. White people ain't gonna do it for us. Asian people or every other race, they got their own issues to deal with. Ain't nobody else gonna come into our communities and tell us, okay, let's build your communities now. No, we gotta do it. We gotta do it. We're the only ones who care enough to do it. So, it really has to happen.
That Million Man March, I was there. That was about atonement, the black man atoning for his sins and his sins of not taking care of his family. And many of you weren't there then, but you need to go back and just look at a video of the Million Man March, because that's what it's about. And since for some reason there's been some big gap and people don't remember what happened, you need to go revisit it, because from what I heard, and you could check this, I believe Martin Luther King only had about 250,000 people at that, or less, at his march. And it still was quantity, and that was a great speech. But this march, the Million Man March, had 2 million men. And the purpose was for us to rebuild, and a lot of those men started taking care of their families and started adopting kids and started taking care of their children, and all kind of great things came out of it, started businesses. So there's been a lull, and we have to bring that back. It's okay to take care of your family. And I heard Mike Tyson recently, and he was like, I had all the cars, I had all the women, I had this, I had that, fame, money like crazy. He said, but my success now, I look at success as my wife and my kids, my family. That's what makes me happy.
You like Mike Tyson, huh?
I love Mike Tyson. Peace to Mike Tyson. Brooklyn! You know what I mean?
I said Mike Tyson like
Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. Because Mike Tyson wasn't supposed to make it. That's why.
He wasn't supposed to make it. And the other thing is to see him now, to where he was, years ago, he's so calm.
Yeah.
And he's very much a family man now. He protects his wife, he protects his children. I mean, it would have been great had he got those lessons earlier in life, but he too didn't have his father growing in his house. He too came from a broken home. Yeah. We realize these things when we're older. I wasn't aware of it when I was younger. I didn't know how much it mattered. So I made choices and decisions picking someone who their own brokenness or whatever. But we really have to start bringing these families together and teaching our children that there's value in that. There's value in that. It's important.
So, pardon me, the hip hop starting to kick in. So, Treacherous and Naughty by Nature said, the sun never shined on my side of the street. So, I big them up, I big Wu-Tang up. Said, moms bounced on old man, so there was some problems right there, you know what I'm saying?
I'm about to make the Wu sign, but my fingers are messed
Woo.
up.
Yeah, which one is the Woo? That's it, right?
Oh, like,
Yeah, I was just at the concert.
This one.
This one? All right. I love the Woo.
I represent Woo.
Yeah, so, 40 of us on the back of the bus going to jail, you know what I'm saying? Life is a shorty, shouldn't be so rough. So the whole Wu-Tang, Rakim, like almost anybody you could mention, KRS-One, he said he was homeless. So many of us that have made it, we made it without perfect situations at home, and we celebrate them. But what about all of them that didn't make it because it was just too hard, or because somebody just got slick and did something to them, and just ruined them? That's the problem.
Or they just didn't have the opportunity to have someone pull them up out of. Because all those successes you mentioned, they didn't do it by themselves. There was somebody that helped them and pull them out. True. But everybody doesn't have that.
Well, I will say, honey.
Yes.
So they didn't have. I'm saying they had enough determination to get to the point where somebody saw what they were doing or saw the potential in them and helped them. But they did. It's not like they were sitting around when somebody said,
"No,
hey,
I'm not saying they're
sitting
around." They was like, "Hey, let me help you." Yeah. But a lot of times, and this is going off topic, but in my opinion, a lot of times those stories, they mention the success of a person, but they don't mention who was there to help those people. And nobody gets ahead by themselves.
Right.
Nobody. It's a village. And what does that village start with? Families. And what a family start with? Individuals deciding that they want family. The importance of family, that they won't be family. So again, it brings it back to Black families. We need our family. We need that. It's so much better in life when you have support and you have somebody behind you, and you're not by yourself in this world.
That's true.
That's what family is.
And
that's what.
Pardon me. As a Black man, probably a woman too. As a Black man, it hurts not to have another strong man around that has your back and is going to help you out, that's going to put you on, that's going to help network you to this or that, or steer you to a school or steer you to a sport and support you. It hurts. It really does.
It doesn't just hurt emotionally. It hurts on so many different levels. It hurts on so many different levels. And it's just, we got to do better. We got to do better. We got to be able to point the finger and like, I need to do a little bit better here. What can I do to change? Because I want better for mine. And you should want better for yours. I'm a grandma now. I want better for my grandchildren. I don't want them to grow up at all thinking or not knowing that love of their father. And they're very close with their father, And so it's important. It's really important.
So in a nutshell, what I'm saying in my summation, is that.
Yes, Foreman.
What do you mean, Foreman? Oh, that's it. You want to tell the inside joke?
Nah, that's all right. We'll stay on topic.
Basically,
we could cut up on another video.
All right. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I know overall what I was going to say. It's okay. It's not
just information.
Yeah. Basically, it's not just about us, man. It's about us sacrificing. That's what it was. We sacrifice for our families. Our families will take care of us. You take care of somebody, they gonna, that loves you, they gonna take care of you back. You take care of your woman, she got you. Your children, they got you. You know, so that's the foundation of the community. But we have to be willing to sacrifice. Okay, we have to be willing to make sure they got some food before we got food. They got clothes, nice clothes before we got nice clothes. You know, like that kind of thing.
Stop being selfish.
Yeah, we got it backwards. We got it, I'm a pimp, I'm a player. No, that's for children. And with all the things that's going on, you know what I'm talking about with the so-called superstars in Hollywood, you should see now that all of that pimping, playing, and all of that, that's dead. It's over.
Exactly. We should not be aspiring to be pimps any goddamn.
Whoa.
Excuse my language. But pimps and hoes is not. That's not it.
No, men and women,
That's
husband
not it.
and wife.
We are men. We are women. We are husbands. We are wives. We are educated. We are, productive. We love each other, and we love our children, and we love our families. None of that means pimp or hoe.
And I'll say that. And y'all don't want to hear this. Y'all don't want to hear this. Most people don't want to hear it.
Hear it.
All right. So like Marcus Garvey said it, and what's his name? His name was Tony. Race first. Tony Martin. Race first. Now we can be cool with everybody else. We cool with other people, but other people got their situation together. They got their little leagues for their kids. They got their tutoring centers after school. They got tutors. They got PTAs, Parent Teacher Association, and they're actively involved. They're in the city council, right? They control their local community. Us, we just go and blowing in the wind. So race first. And this is what motivates a lot of people is race. It's not racism. It's just, you know what? This is my people. Let me make sure all of my people are good. That's it. If you look like me, I got to make sure you're good. And we got self-hate in our community. We look like each other, want to kill each other, want to hurt each other, want to cheat on each other. That has to stop. So it's not just a black man, it's the righteous black man. You got to be righteous.
Get yourself a man who's righteous.
Because it's going to come back and bite you. Karma is you know what I'm saying?
You never know, he might just buy your house down in Florida.
So.
Not just for you, but do it for all of y'all.
Hey. Oh, we both spit, you know what I'm saying? That means rap for those who don't understand. And we ain't gonna stop. Because we are original from this hit thing called hip hop. You know what I mean? From the Bronx, the BX to T-Neck, all right? So, architects and dialect. Anyway, you ready to wrap it up, baby?
Yeah, I guess we could wrap it up here. But this was cool. This was cool. We'll do another one.
So leave your comments below, questions.
And what's your opinion on what we're talking about? How did you feel about k.Michelle's comments and that whole conversation she had with Cam Newton?
Yeah. And brothers, can you please just stop with the excuses? It's bad. That's boyish. Like, stop with the excuses. For real.
And we mean excuses. There are reasons, and you may, because like we said, I continuously say throughout this, of course there are situations that don't, but that's not what we're talking about.
Right. And what happened with me is, like we spoke about earlier, I wanted to reverse my situation. You should want to reverse your situation. That's what I'm pretty much trying to tell you. Like, why keep the drama going instead of bringing peace and respect and love into the household?
Love is very important. Love you.
Love you too. And we love y'all. That's why we're telling you this.
We love our people.
That's right. Amen.
Amen.
Peace.
Ashe and Ashe.
Ashe.
Peace out.